Hello, 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 everybody. Thank you for joining in today. Before we start, please rep your city, rep your country, wherever you're watching us from. Please leave a comment. Let us know where you're watching us from. And remember, give your host a big thumbs up. And if you are not subscribed yet, kindly subscribe. So if you don't know me, my name is Dapra Black Woman, and I always bring you fantastic content every single week. Now, you're wondering, who do I have here today? So if you have seen my flyers, you see that I said my first male guest that I've had on this show. And it's not on purpose, okay? It's not as if I'm trying not to bring men. It's just like most people that I've met, that I've had chats with, and I've been able to invite, have been women, not because I'm biased. All right, so this is going to be my first ever male guest on this show, and is the best person that I can bring as the first male. Let me just leave it at that. So you get to find out when I read his bio, because he's an accomplished gentleman. So before I read your bio, is there anything else that you want us to know apart from what is on your bio? There's like hobbies and things like that that are not formal.
No, I think we can go with the bio, and then maybe as we dive into the discussions, certain things can come out naturally. So
Yeah. All right, that's fantastic. So if you don't know who I'm talking to, his name is Paul Oguzie. I want to be able to pronounce it properly. Is it Paul? I said Paul. Sorry,
kind of
Kenneth
good.
Oguzie or Oguzie?
Well,
Okay, because
well,
I know there's a E.
yes. Well, the correct pronunciation is Oguzie. That's the pronunciation. The correct pronunciation.
Oguzie.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we have Englishnized it to Paul
Absolutely.
to Kenneth Oguzie. I keep
Yeah.
saying Paul. I don't know where I got Paul from, but all right. So I'm just gonna read your bio, and then we'll go with the flow as it goes, right? So Kenneth Oguzie is an internationally trained specialist and diversity and inclusion consultant residing in Nova Scotia since 2014. Born in Nigeria, Ken considers himself a global citizen, having lived in Asia, Europe, Africa, and presently North America. A master's graduate of social policy and development from the London School of Economics. Wow. Is presently the CEO of Africa Canada Trade and Investment Venture Active, an organization which promotes international trade and business between Canada and West Africa, both within private sector as well as creating public sector collaborations. He's also a senior diversity consultant with the Nova Scotia PSC and the vice president of the development of ocean technical capacity with African Nations, .can, a Canada West African not-for-profit initiative, a prominent member of the Nigerian community, and a recent recipient of the Distinguished Nigerian in Nova Scotia Award for contribution to the Nigerian as well as the West African community. Ken's organization, active in partnership with NSBI, hosted the first ever West African Nova Scotia Trade and Business Summit in 2018. This landmark event was attended by multiple businesses from West Africa and Canada, including the government officials from both regions, wow, and key player in the international trade industry. Ken has supported numerous immigrants from across the world in settling in Nova Scotia, as well as other provinces across maritime Canada, both formally and in his previous employment specialist role with ISANS. Is that the correct pronunciation? ISANS, yeah. As well as informally, and continuously advocates for equal opportunities for immigrants. He volunteers in various commitments such as the Halifax Local Immigrant Partnership, Assessing Skilled Force Committee of the Halifax Chambers of Commerce, Welcome to Canada Halifax Immigration Museum, Pier 21, Ambassador ISANS Employer Advisory Council, Diversity and Inclusion Standing and Advisory Council, Committee of the Nova Scotia College of Pharmacists, etc. Ken is a strong advocate of girl-child empowerment in Africa and presently supports various not-for-profit organizations in West Africa. Wow, talk about achievement. That's a whole lot of achievement right there. This is fantastic. So, as I said before, you're just mind-blowing. I saw your article. Actually, a friend of mine had sent me your article. I think was it in the Sun or something like that, and said, "Do you know this person?" And I said, "No, I don't." But then when I read through all the achievements, I was wowed, like, wow, I need to get in contact with this fantastic personality. And I'm so grateful that you accepted to come on this session with me today. So, because we know we're all going to learn from your wealth of knowledge. So, yeah. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Chef Bliss. Thank you for showing up. If you have questions as we go, you can leave your questions in the chat box and we'll get to it as we go. As well, remember to give your host a thumbs up and remember to rep your city. If I'm from Toronto, guest speaker is from Nova Scotia, so rep your city. Let's know where you're joining us from. The topic of the day is Take That Leap. Take That Leap. That's a topic that I also want to learn from, because there's so many hindrances for those of us that are either immigrants or people of color or Black people in the Western world. And a lot of us have had so many thoughts in our mind. Should I do this? Should I not? What are the successes? What are the failures? We just stay in our own head and we end up not going through with our ideas and our dreams. So this is why I feel like this topic is really important for everybody, including myself. And you're the best person, having achieved so much, you're the best person to talk to us about this. So I'm just going to go with the questions and we'll go from there. So the first one I have is, you are a multi-award winning individual who is an immigrant within Canada. How does it feel to be recognized for what you do? How does it feel?
Thank you very much, Fikemi. First of all, I have to congratulate you for what you're doing. I think it's important to have platforms like this, whereby people can really get together and talk about topical issues and really sort of bring them to reality and bring multiple perspectives, and hopefully we can all gain and learn and understand. So, good job in everything you're doing. And as someone who also has a platform, I think we underestimate the amount of hard work involved in doing what you do. But one thing you should always understand, or what should actually make you happy, is the fact that the impact is far wider than you actually think or you imagine. So, keep doing what you're doing, and hopefully the impact would keep growing.
Thank you so much. Thank you for acknowledging that. It's really, it feels good a lot of times when I get those little recognition and acknowledgement, because sometimes I feel like, are people actually gaining from this?
Yeah.
But yeah, hearing that, it's really good. Thank you so much for the recognition.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
But back to your question. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Okay. So back to your question. I think recognitions or like awards are really it's more like passing some level of how I'm trying to find the best way to articulate it. So pretty much everything that I have done or have been recognized for doing has been based on standing on the shoulders of other people. So basically, even though personally I was given that award, or some of these awards I have been given, there have been a lot of people who have worked, who have pretty much provided all the much needed support and foundation for me to have built upon. So every time I talk about it, I always have to recognize, these individuals. I always have to recognize those immigrants who paved the way for yourself and myself. And then we are sort of just taking the baton from where they start,
Yeah.
And I think for us immigrants, it's very, very important that we stick together. It's very, very important that we collectively work together, because, we have a lot of odds stacked against us in terms of, when we come, you don't have any network, you don't have all of these pieces. So you pretty much have to build everything from scratch, And I think the one of the best tools to really help us settle in together has always been collective, working collectively, reaching out to each other, creating platforms like yours and all of these pieces to help us to say, some of you have been here before me. How did you overcome these challenges? And then really work with best practices. So, just to go back to the award piece, it's I was humbled, or I've been flattered in terms of the recognition I've received, both in Nova Scotia, Atlantic Canada, and even all the way back to the homeland. So but it's inspiring. It's inspiring, really, and I think for me, hopefully, it helps motivate other people who believe in working for the collective good of all of us all, and putting all this work, which could be very selfless most times, because sometimes there isn't really any reward that is commensurate with the amount of work you have to do. But still, at the end of the day, others have done the work. Others did the work for you to take over from there. So they were able to do the work. And the plan really is for us to do as much as we can, so that when we then move on, the next generation can take it from there. So that's really how I feel about that.
Yeah, that's really you said it all. Because one of the reasons why I also created this platform is when I came to Canada, I didn't have a lot of people to tell me what to do, and I feel like sometimes when you talk to people, I wouldn't want to say just Nigerians, but when you talk to people that have been living here for a while and they've made giant strides, when you talk to them, they don't want to tell you the secret. They just be quiet about it. Be like, oh, yeah, that's not what I want to hear. I want to know how were you able to do it, so that I don't make the same mistakes that you made, and I can at least apply some of your strategies so that I get there faster. But
Absolutely.
I feel like a lot of people tend to think why don't you want to go through the stages that they went through? And that should not be the mindset, because that's how we wouldn't grow on time as a community, as members of the same country, or as members of the BIPOC community. Because if you keep waiting, well, you have to struggle first, go through all the stages. Why do you want to jump over others? Then we're not going to create wealth for our generation.
Absolutely.
So that's the mindset towards this one. Whatever I've learned in my little time here, because I came to Canada in 2015, I think you're my senior with that. So the little things that I've learned, I want to be able to share with others. And as I said, I'm new in the country as well. And I want to articulate other people's ideas as well. People like you, people that those that I've brought on the show before, to tell us what were their strategies, so that we can also learn from that and apply it to our lives. So that's pretty much what this platform is about. So I really appreciate what you have said.
Absolutely. And I think two of my favorite quotes, when people talk about this, is we rise by lifting others. So basically, when you lift others, we all rise collectively. And the second one, if I win, you win. So if I win, we all win. So basically, for me, if we get to that, no matter the smallest community you live in, the pride of coming from the community is where you turn around and everyone is flourishing in whatever their careers are.
Exactly.
That is how you change some of the stereotypes or biases you have. You've seen people carry about societies. So we should never underestimate the impact of the tiny support we provide to every new individual or every person who reaches out to us for this support, because it goes a long way. And when they asked me, oh, Ken, all this stuff you did for me, what do I need to do to repay you back? I said, you need just to do one thing for me. Just pass it on. Just
pay it forward. That's one of the the principles that I stand by. I don't want you to pay it back to me. I want you to pay it forward. Because if you keep paying it back to me, then we're never going to share that wealth of knowledge. So pay it to the next person. Let that person pay to the next person, and that's how it would go around. So see, we have a lot of things in common. Apart from the fact that we are both in inclusion and diversity field, we have a lot of things in common, and that's one of my principles. Pay it forward. Don't pay it back. I've already reached a certain height. I want you to pay to the next person, and also encourage those people to keep paying it forward. So that's really important. Thank you so much for that. So this brings me to my next question. So when I was reading your bio just now, you referred to yourself as a global citizen, having lived in several continents, right? What made you choose to call Canada home?
Good question. Good question. I think it's so I think for me, I've lived in about four continents now. So from Asia to Europe to the US and Canada and all of that. And of course, I was born in Nigeria, West Africa, for those who don't know where that is. So I think for me, I was seeking more like a global perspective, because I feel like residing in different places helps you to really learn different cultures and actually being less judgmental, because I think sometimes we just judge people because we do not understand the rationale or the mindset behind thinking or action. So I think by the time after I had gone through all of these places, and of course the last place I lived in was in England, I wanted to change a little bit. I wanted to change, and at that point, with when kids came into the picture, and I started thinking about where would I really want to move to now, whereby I feel like my kids would it's a good place to raise kids. It's a good place to raise kids, and some of the issues which I had witnessed living in London, being a big city, that sort of like gave me concerns or worry. I was like, where can I really start thinking of that has a history in terms of things being a little bit easier, raising kids and being a little bit more family oriented. And of course, that's how Canada came into the picture. Especially at that point in time, my very good friend at that point in time, who we were in the UK together, had moved to Canada. So the first place that came to my mind obviously was Toronto and Calgary. So I was thinking, but I was like, you know what? I think I was born in Lagos. I have lived in Lagos. I have lived in New York. I have lived in London. So I was like, you know what? I'm not sure I want to do big cities anymore. And of course, I'm a big city person. I love the the vibrancy. I love all the opportunities and all the stuff. But I was like, this is a hard decision. This is a hard decision. I have to find a way to sort of strike a balance. So go to a country that offers me the family stuff, and then of course I might not necessarily have to live in a big city. And I must say to you, the first couple of years I did consider moving, to Toronto. But yeah, I did actually, like every other person, who moved to Nova Scotia. But then there's something about Nova Scotia that sort of just caught me, when I came in, the way the environment was, and the modest pace. Because I wouldn't say slow paced. I think it's modest. I think it's modest for people. And then of course, Nova Scotia is one of those cities where it's a small city, but it has everything a big city has in small quantities. So it wasn't pretty much like some of the places where you go, you'd be like, they don't have an international airport, or they don't have this, they don't have that. We pretty much have everything in Nova Scotia. It's just that maybe if you go to bigger cities, you probably have multiple of those things.
Yeah.
So, that's sort of how that guided my decision. And then, I was like, come to Canada. Of course, I was a bit concerned about the weather, it's cold and all of that. Of course, I have witnessed living in London, but I did also live in Sweden for a year and a half. So it wasn't too much of settling for me, because I had like tasted some of the harsh winter. So when I came here, of course, it was much colder compared to some of the temperatures I have witnessed. But at the end of the day, it worked for me. The family loved it. The kids settled in okay. So I decided to just stay in Nova Scotia and Canada,
Nice. So I also have lived in a couple of continents. I was born in Nigeria, but as a kid, I lived in the UK. I lived in London. And then after that, we moved back to Nigeria. And then from Nigeria, I went to Ireland. I lived in Dublin, schooled in Dublin. Then after that, moved here to Canada. But I haven't lived in like just 3 continents for me. Yeah, I know. So yeah, my decision to move here was actually due to my husband coming to school, and then just came from Dublin to join him, and yeah, pretty much. So yeah, this brings me to my next question. I just wanted to clarify that area where you said you're a global citizen, so people don't wonder, what does that even mean, right? So my third question is
really what that means is pretty much like, I think I am a bit of everything right now. So sometimes you find yourself in some circles where this is supposed to be like where you should feel at home, but then when you go into discussions, everyone is like, why are you bringing that perspective? Because I cannot really place myself into one tiny circle anymore, because I have a bit of everything, and you understand how living in a place influences you, no matter how much you want to acknowledge it or that. So I think the fact that I have spent time in all of these places, it sort of created a bit of everything for me. And then I just consider myself a global citizen.
Fantastic. Wow. Thank you for clarifying that. So I read your bio and I was really amazed by your achievement. How has the journey been for you so far? What motivated you to take the leap into the international trade field?
Oh, yeah. Okay. But I think I have a philosophy, and that is, no matter what you're doing from a business or career piece, even though there's a benefit like around finance, you want to make money or whatever it is, I don't think it's mutually exclusive, whereby you can still do stuff that is for the common good of other people. I have that philosophy. So I think I always find a way to create a middle ground around doing something that I love, supporting people, but of course you can still make money from it depending on whatever it is. So in terms of the international trade piece, when I moved here in Nova Scotia 2014, I sort of, I have a business background. I studied business management at the University of Greenwich in the UK. And I had a focus on international business. So it's been something that has always, for me, like been of a lot of interest. So when I moved here and I started, I got a job, obviously, but then I was thinking to myself, what more can I do in terms of, supporting the community and really start creating stuff? I love to create something. Like, I don't run away from challenges. So basically, when there's nothing, I want to create something. I don't love to be in spaces where everyone is already there. It's not really for me. It doesn't give me that motivation or adrenaline rush for me. So I started looking at international trade as a whole, like what's going on in the international trade space here. And I discovered that Canada as a whole, even Nova Scotia, there wasn't so much traction around trade with Africa as a whole. It was more like Europe, China, and of course, the US being the sister city to Canada. So I had two options. Option number one, move to Toronto or BC, where there was some bit of more traction in comparison to Atlantic Canada. So basically, you probably could find some of the stakeholders being a little bit interested in Africa. Though it wasn't so much, but at least I could go there. There wasn't pretty much like an established platform, at least to start things. But then I said to myself, looking around Atlantic Canada, there was almost zero traction. What can I do to build stuff? Understanding that this is going to be more challenging because obviously you have to start off from the basics, convince everyone, trying to make them see the benefits of trading with Africa as a region. Anyways, that's how the dream came about. I then started working on organization. First of all, you have to deal with all the biases, all the biases of Africa. When you think about Africa business, it's more like how can we send them money because they don't have much going on there. So we had to start from the grassroots, putting together all these webinars and Zoom and talk to stakeholders, do all these presentations. And, you could see eyes opening up to like, wow, what's going on here? We never knew about this, And then, of course, we started the other education of Africa is not a country, it's a continent, more than 1 billion people. So basically, understand that there are peculiarities across the region. And, we have to put that into context and understand the fact that a 45 million people economy like Canada, if you were to go into a country just like Nigeria and Ghana, with a total of maybe 240 million people, that tells you how much you can really make out of it. So that's how the journey into international trade started, where we started doing all these stakeholders, we started working with people, and today I can say we've made a lot of progress. We're not where we want to be in terms of people's buying, but of course with new initiatives like the newly signed African Continental Free Trade Agreement, which allows services to be moved across Africa real quickly, that's going to be like a strong incentive for stakeholders like Canada or the rest of them who want to do business with Africa. So that's pretty much a summary of how the whole international trade space and how my interest really came about.
Yeah, I see why you got all those awards, because you're changing the narrative. You're putting Africa on the map. Of course, Africa has always been on the map, but it has been in the negative light, where people always think Africa, as you said, Africa is one country. So I'll just make a little joke. When I was still living in Ireland, and I was in Limerick, and I think that was when Ebola was
Ebola. Yeah.
So I was working with this Institute for People with Intellectual Disability, and some of the nurses looked at me and said, "Oh, I hope all your family members are fine." I said, "I'm not from Liberia, I'm from Nigeria." Yeah. And they said, yeah. Or they'll say something like, "Oh, there's a girl that used to work here. She's from Africa. Do you know her?" And I'm like,
yeah, of course.
What? Why would I know? I don't even know all my family members.
I know, right?
So people have that mindset. I made a video one time where I said, when I was in the UK, somebody has asked me if there was moon in Africa, and people thought I was joking. It wasn't like I was asked directly, and she was like, "Oh, is there any moon in Africa?" I said, "There's one moon for the entire earth." So what kind of question is that? So people ask all kind of funny question, and I made that like weirdest things that people ask, or weirdest assumptions about Africa. Where when Black Panther came and people were asking me, "Oh, do I speak the language from Wakanda?" And I'm like, "What language is Wakanda?" So it's funny. So this makes sense when you actually bring in Africa to the fore and let them know that we're not just a bunch of people, cave people. There's so much potential. There's so much that you can gain from Africa, especially thinking about Nigeria, all the things that we have all kinds of cash crops. We have timber, we have cocoa, we have all kinds of things in Africa.
Yeah.
So when everybody start to stand up and say, you know what, we want to change those biases, we want to change, those stereotypes, and let people see how great the people of Africa are and how great the continent itself is. So yeah, I could understand, I can see from your perspective how people were, thinking like, wow, this is a person that deserves an award. And I feel like you deserve, if I had an award for Dakra Black woman, sure, I would give you right now. Thank you for doing that for Africa. And I only pray that it continues to go upward from here.
Yes. And just back to one of those jokes. The one I find very hilarious is when people ask you can you do the African dance for me? So they'll be like, "Oh, can you dance Can you do African dance?" So I said, which one? Is it Skelewu? Is it Gwara Gwara? Is it Asonto? Because when you go into the continent, there are so many, but they just believe that there's something called African dance. What is African dance? I mean, Morocco is African. Have you seen how Moroccans or Tunisians dance? It's not even anything compared. So I find it very hilarious. I find it very hilarious. And I think some of it boils down to education. And that's why you and I have to do a lot of work in terms of telling our stories from the, first voice, authentic voice, amplifying some of the beautiful stories, really challenging some of these biases. And of course, taking time to understand where these biases come from and then find ways to distort some of those mindsets. So I think it is. And the other piece, we talked about the problems too, the issues. Every time people talk about it, people are like, "Oh, there are problems in Africa, blah, blah, blah." All I say to them is, we do not have African problems. We have human problems, just like every other human. So that's always my response to them when they throw that in as well.
Yeah, that's true. And all countries have problems, but they all grew from somewhere. All right. So we have been talking about, taking the leap since we started this conversation. What does it actually mean to you? That statement, take the leap.
I think taking the leap personally, this is my opinion, and I'm sure people have different perspectives towards this. I think taking the leap is pretty much about that thing which scares you, that thing which doesn't make you sleep at night, that thing which every time you think about it, you see yourself in it, but you are quick to come out of that thinking because you feel like this is too big for me. The moment you decide to then take action on that is what taking that leap is. Because remember that the way leaps typically is something you're moving out of your comfort zone. So you're not walking, you are leaping. So when you take a leap, it's pretty much like something where if you don't position yourself properly, you end up falling. That's what it is. When you take a leap, in the literary sense. So basically, for me, I have taken a lot of leaps, like in terms of some of the things, and I think there's more. There are a lot of more things I want to take a leap, and of course, you might want to add the take a leap of faith. So take a leap of faith, where you're like, you know what, I'm going to go in with this and all of that. But I think the most important thing in taking that leap is really two things. For me, this is how I see it. The first of all, prepared. You have to be very prepared. Preparation. So I think before you take a leap, you really have to be prepared. You really need to have different scenarios and have contingency plans around it. And then the second thing is expectation. So basically, I am an advocate of having expectations for every single thing you do. Because when you have those sort of expectations, it helps you guide your mind in terms of whatever will happen. So basically, I'm going to do this. I expect to be successful, but there's also that whole piece around that might not be successful, but it doesn't come as a surprise when it's not successful.
It happens.
But the fact that you have decided to take a leap in the first place and then action, that actually success for me. That actually success for me. So once you're able to articulate all of this in your mind around, this is what I want to do, this is how I'm going to do it, I'm prepared, these are the possible scenarios, these are some of the contingency plans, then you just go for it. And I think that's one of the things that people has held a lot of people backwards. The only way you can actually find out if something works is when you do it. No matter how you sit down and you think about it, and everyone advises you from morning till night, no two situations are the same. The fact that Ken did all of this piece and all of this and it didn't work, it doesn't mean that it wouldn't work for you. The most important is once you believe in yourself, if you feel like you've done all the hard work, you've benchmarked, you've learned all the best practices, go for it. What's the worst that would happen? You fall on your face, but you get up, you learn a lot of lessons, you reposition yourself, and then you move. So that's how I see it.
Yeah, that's really well put up, because a lot of people, most of the time, is because of the fear of failure. And I'm going to get to that later on in this show, because a lot of times people have that dream. They dream and dream and dream about this big thing that they want to do, as you have said earlier, but then they're scared. What if? There's so many what ifs, and then they end up not doing it. So yeah, it's actually you planning ahead, like this is failure might happen. And in my last week, when I had a speaker here, and we're talking about yes you can, and we're talking about failures might happen or will happen, but don't stay down, right? Get up and pick yourself up and continue. And at the end of the day, every failure, see it as a learning curve, right? That there's something to be learned. And now when you already know that is a downfall, you'll never make the same mistake again, and you will learn from that. And it will also make you to re-strategize. So yeah, that's like really, really important. So which leads, what we're talking about now leads me to my next question, because often people have, big aspirations and dreams, but are worried about the risk involved. Examples would be, would they succeed? What happens if they fail? The finances that is needed, that's like always a big deal. Like, or maybe I need $50 million to start whatever business I want to do, or the venture I want to do. And these worries hold people back from actualizing those dreams. So the question here is, did you have similar worries when you started?
Absolutely. And the first thing I want to throw in here is, when you talk about risk, it's always the risk of failure. Failure is part of the process. So people need to understand that failure is part of the process. I mean, like I said, in 2019, I was able to collaborate with the Nova Scotia Business Incorporation, which is a trade and investment arm of the government, to host this first ever Nova Scotia West African Trade and Business Summit, where I brought businesses from West Africa this way. Did you know how many doors we had to knock on to be able to, for them to really consider? It's interesting because I had actually collaborated with multiple individuals within that same organization to say, hey, I've got this brilliant idea, let's roll on it. And the doors were shut. Some of them were not really interested, and you don't really blame them, because it didn't really seem very comfortable, or, sometimes they didn't really see the benefit. But, what did I do? I started thinking, how can I strengthen my selling points for this idea? And then I kept going multiple times until I found this amazing individual within the organization whom we worked with, collaborated, and it came to reality. So, when you talk about risk, the best we can really do is in terms of find ways to mitigate the risk, or find ways find ways to really ensure that even if you fail, you have a place to start again from. That's really what it is. You cannot really eliminate risk, no matter what you do. Any venture or anything you do which is risk-free, there's nothing in it. It becomes regular, and all the successful people, amazing people doing things within the continent or everywhere in the world, they are risk takers. That's really it. So we're not saying throw all cautions to the wind and just go out guns blazing and doing stuff without a plan because you're a risk taker. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about sitting down, having a good plan, having a good strategy, making sure you are equipped. Yes, you are equipped in all the different aspects, learning from the mistakes of other people, understanding what the risks are, and then you go into it. That's really the mindset of a lot of successful people. And if you read books, if you watch all these podcasts and all of these people, every single one of them, whenever they talk to you about what they did, they will tell you they were scared. No one said, I was confident that I'm going to this venture and I'm going to kill it. I'm going to beat it. No, every person will be like, I had my doubt. Like I was scared about, I put out all these things at the line, and I knew that if this thing didn't work out the way I wanted, then it's going to really throw me off course and all those pieces. But guess what? A lot of them still went ahead and did it. Some didn't succeed the first time. Some didn't succeed the second time, third time, fourth time, fifth time. Some of them was a 7 or 8. But the most important thing is your mindset. Once you have the right mindset, it doesn't matter when you fail. Failure is just part of the process. It's not an outcome of what you decided to do. So that's how I see this system as a whole.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Taking calculated risk is really important.
Yeah.
And as you said, so many people that have great success stories, most of them failed multiple times.
Absolutely.
Multiple times until they stood. But we're just all the time want to get something the first time. And we're scared of, oh, what if I fail? People would laugh. Sometimes it's what people would say. Oh, people would laugh at me. People, people would laugh at me. Or would I be able to have the opportunity of, maybe let's say you had to quit your job to start your own dream, but I wouldn't have that job anymore. And a lot of these things like keep going on and on and on in people's head. And as I said, we need to learn from you in this, because I'm also guilty of that, because I'm like, oh, wow.
We are human.
Even with this channel, it was like that. Like, oh, I was supposed to I started this in March, first week of March. But before then, the intention when I started the channel was actually to start interviewing people, because I want to take all these messages out there for people. I don't know whose life I might change from listening to these things, but I was limited by the number of followers I have, the number of subscribers I have. Would people actually listen to me if I go to meet them? Like, oh, can I invite you, especially somebody of your caliber, on my channel of less than 1,000 followers, right? So that kept going on and on and on in my head, until one day I was like, you know what? I'm doing this. The funny part is I did fail in a couple of aspects, because I've had people talk to me about, oh, how do you get all these people to come on your channel? Because I've been trying to get people. And I said, you know what? Out of those people that you see that are the gem that I bring on my channel, I might have knocked on 10 more doors. And
of course,
they didn't even say anything. Not even a response.
Yep.
Right. So when I say, but I am not stopping, I keep going forward. Like people nowadays, I'm even thinking to go higher than I could even phantom and see what comes out of there. And the truth is the more quality of people I bring on my channel, the more easier it is for me to bring more people. Because then they say, who have you interviewed? And they look at your and say, oh, you've interviewed Kenneth Oguzie, you've interviewed this person. Wow, okay. Then they feel more comfortable. And I'm really loving what I'm doing now. And it's a lot of stress behind the scenes, just but yeah, I feel like I'm moving forward little by little. And at some point, it will become something that people would be able to reckon with. And all these videos, people will look back at it and they can take a thing or two. Even for myself, most of the time when I finish this, I go back and watch. Because right now, I'm listening and moderating at the same time. But then I go back and sit down and watch everything that the speaker had said, so that I can be able to apply it to myself. So it's really good the way you said it, that there's no way you can eliminate risk. It would also take calculated risk.
Yes. Right? And one thing I also want to add is the fact that, it's like when, if I want to talk about when we talk about from the religious piece, where they say things like, God is preparing you for big things through these challenges and all these pieces. So it's the same thing. The moment you tend to normalize risk as a person, and then you overcome the big risk, which is kickstarting it prepares you for the biggest stuff. Because remember, this big venture you are going in, it's not going to be static, it's going to be dynamic. You have to make new decisions all the time to survive in that space you're playing, and that involves a lot of risk. So if you're in a business, a new business will come in, there's a new competitor. So you're thinking now, someone comes to you and say, you know what? Can we split your business 50-50 so that we can kick out this third person? It's a risk, because you don't know if this is going to work. So overcoming that first risk, or whatever it is, and building the business is just the first risk. There are multiple risks. Everything you're going to do, the whole of your business life or your life would involve a lot of risk taking. So the earlier you normalize, the better for you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for bringing that to the fore. So So now that we've talked about risk, one part of it that I want us to expatiate more about is the need for finances, because that's another big thing that stops people from actually taking that leap, like financing. And it could be in form of finances to start the business, or it could be in form of, if I stop my job, my 9 to 5 job, and I focus completely on my business, then if I'm not getting money from there, how do I pay my bills? So it's like ways, finances to start the business, or when I start the business and I'm not getting, any more money from my 9 to 5, how do I survive? So what are your advice in such situations to people?
Well, I think this is one of the most common concerns, for most people, especially who want to venture into entrepreneurship and setting up their own business. And the first thing I always say is, setting up business or any sort of entrepreneurship journey is never going to be comfortable. It's not meant to be comfortable. So you have to make a lot of hard choices and lifestyle changes. But the most important thing is you're driven by your goals, your vision, and all your ambition. That's what drives you. So that's enough currency to pay you, really, like if you want to look at it from a mindset standpoint. So it's never going to be comfortable. There will be a lot of uncomfortable things. Now, I find that personally, sometimes when you listen to individuals talk about finance, for example, so let's start off with those who want to move into it, set up their own business and say, oh, you know what? I need money to set up my own business. That's why I've not really gone into business, because no one is willing to sponsor me. So like, we know this is very common in the continent. I need a sponsor to set up this business. And I like to refer to a story about, individuals who had gone to talk about this and say, you know what? There were about 5 of them, and they met this venture capitalists, and they said, oh, we want to set up an agriculture-based business. So basically, we'll run a farm, and all the revenue streams will be, we sell the eggs from the chicken, we'll sell the blah, 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 all those pieces. So he asked every one of them, so how much do you want from me? Everyone says, I want $100,000 or something. So he's like, have any of you run a successful farm business before? No, but we've worked for people, so we think we understand everything to do. So it's just money. Once we get money, we can make this happen, and we are sure it's going to work. He said, okay, it's hard for me to give each one of you 100,000 to start this whole business, but what I'm going to do is we're going to break this supply chain of this business into pieces. So all the revenue streams you talked about, so one of it is selling the eggs, one of it is selling the like when you slaughter the chicken and all of those pieces. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give each one of you $5,000, for example, to start the egg business. So basically, all these years you've been working for someone, you've never really been held accountable for your decision. So I'm going to give you $5,000, each one of you. Go find places like farms that are in existence, buy off the eggs from them, and then go resell it. If you're able to give me 20% within the first 1 year, I will give you another 5,000 to add this element of the supply chain until I feel like you've managed all the pieces. Then I can give you the $100,000. Every single one of them walked away. They did not take the deal. Obviously, because of the fact that for them, they felt like the only thing they wanted was the whole money. And everyone is willing to risk people's money except their own money. So basically, it's easy for you to jump an investor and say, hey, we need 100,000. Ken, you are my sponsor. Please, I need 100,000 to run this business. And it's easy for you to think about the fact that if I don't give you this money, I'm not supporting your dream. But when I sit down and we looked into this thing and analyzed it properly, how much have you really shown to me that you can run a successful business? It's not as if you've started, because most of the time you see people, they are the group who they've not started anything. Then there's a group whom they are already managing a tiny business. They just need to scale up. The latter is typically the ones whom people want to really listen to, because they've seen that this person is doing it. And you see it when you go to Dragon's Den and all this Shark Tank. No one walks into there and say, I have an amazing business right there. They ask you, what was your revenue last year? My revenue was $10,000. Now my plan is projection. The next 3 years, I want to do 500,000, and I need 60K for 5% equity in the business. So for me, I think we need to really start coming out of the mindset that with zero finance, without money at all, we can never do any business. I think we can. I think we just need to start thinking of breaking it down into smaller pieces. I'm an Igbo man, every single Igbo man who went to from the eastern part of Nigeria to Lagos that had a shop, not going there with their millions. Some of them had to go through like apprenticeship scheme. Some of them had to, all they needed to do was they started off with a small amount and started off with one single, let's say, it's a fan belt of 5,000 naira. They sell it, they take it on credit or whatever, or no matter how little it is. They sell it, they make $1,000. They go grab from the big man shop again, take it back to the other place where there's a buyer, make one, and then gradually from fan belt they move to this. And guess what? Initially, the guy would not give them the fan belt on credit. They had to get a tiny amount of money. But by the time the guys saw that they had started making progress in fan belt, brake pads, and all this, guess what the big man started doing? He started giving them on credits because everybody wants some level of track record. You're not going to gamble with my money. No one wants to do that. No one does that. If they had that mindset, they wouldn't have the money in the first place because there's no emotions. It's all mindset. It's all logical. You know, so I always say to people, if you sit back and think that the reason why you not started any business in the first place because of finance, start thinking of how can you break that business into small pieces and take the little amount of money you have to kickstart a small part of the supply chain and gradually scale it. So my business this is not the dream of my business. I'm still building the dream, and I'm having to work within the financial constraints I have. I want to hire 20 consultants working across Africa and sourcing for trade and business opportunities globally. But I didn't sit back and start wailing about how I don't have all of that money. I started thinking, how can I start off small with what I have, break down the supply chain, draw the roadmap, and then start taking it little by little until you get there. So that's exactly what I did. And then the second piece around those who have like a 9 to 5, who want to move into like a job and say, trust me, that's part of the risk taking. There's no one that will tell you this is the best way whereby that can guarantee you that when you move out of your job and you move into this business, you will start making the same amount of money. Hell no. Most people have to do lifestyle changes. So you live in that house with a $2,000 mortgage. My dear, you might have to move into an apartment to kickstart your dream. Unfortunately, that's how it works. But the thing is, everyone can do this. You just need to believe. That's why you have to be driven by the passion and the belief in your business and have clear expectations. So when you put sort of all of this context, make your journey a little bit better. But there's really no guarantee. There's really no guarantees, or there's really no shortcuts to say, I want to go into this, and this is the money I need. If I leave my job now, how am I going to make it? All you can do is really to put in strategies to mitigate it or to cushion the impact. And you don't go into the business and start making money from day one. Most businesses you start making money from day one are not sustainable. The more sustainable businesses, go and look. Alibaba will tell you 12 years they didn't make any profit. When you build something is different from creating something. So when you build it because the plan is that it's going to stay sustainable. So the only way to sustain it is really to go through those dark, tough days. It could be 2 years, it could be 3 years. But when it starts making money, see how it stays. Compared to the ones people start off, the next month they start making money. The next month they start dipping into the revenue from the business. There's no reinvestment into the business, and then it's not sustainable. So this is my perspective on that.
Wow. You see, I was just nodding along all throughout it's eye-opening, because the truth is I have been one of those people that I want to start this business, have this much money. So actually, the way you said, break up the supply chain. Wow, that's really important. And I feel like a lot of people are really appreciating, because once you said that, I've been seeing chats coming in, because that's so much eye-opener. Because at the end of the day, you talked about the story of the person with the chickens and all of that, and that's true. A lot of people want money from people, and we want to risk other people's money, but we can't risk our own money, which is why we're not even taking the risk to leave our job in the first place, right? So yeah, that's a really huge eye-opener, and I believe that a lot of us have learned from that. Dividing that that supply chain and start from the little, because when people see that you can turn $1 to $5, then they will be able to invest in you more. So do something with the little you have, and then after that, you can go out to people and say, well, this is what I've done, and this is where the future of my business is going, and I need you to invest in me, and that would give you more. Yeah, that's really important. Thank you so much, because this is me, like, I was just nodding along throughout. So yeah, thank you so much for that. So now, talking about the piece of inclusion and diversity, which is my passion, and you know, you are an inclusion and diversity consultant. I'm sure you are aware of the struggles that BIPOC. For those that don't know what BIPOC means, is Black and people of color. Black, Indigenous, and people of color. So the struggles that they face daily in the Western world. What will your advice be, you know, to Black people, immigrants, on how to successfully integrate and be a success in whatever the chosen field or business is? Because, for example, there's been a lot of discrimination, there's been a lot of stereotypes, so that when you go for interviews, they already have a stereotype. Maybe she doesn't know how to speak good English, maybe a lot of maybe. So what would your advice be for? Because I want the focus not to be on what the government should do for us or what allies should do for us, what we should do for ourselves to ensure that we're being successful and we're shattering the glass ceilings in our chosen fields.
I think personally, this is it's always very tricky talking about, you know, this sort of thing, because you know, there's a school of thought that believes that we are not the problem. It's the individuals that have the biases that are the problem. So really, why should I be the one, or why should we really do stuff? It's them that really need to change their mindset. But at the end of the day, I think that's valid. I mean, every perspective is valid in this space or in this sort of conversation. But I think the most important thing is trying to think about how can we maximize our chances for success? How can we set up ourselves for success as much as possible? And so personally, this is my story, and this is, I'm using my own experiences that really helped me. I think every time I go into a new place, I am always very intrigued about the culture and the mindset and the history of the people, because I think every sort of bias or stereotype or behavior has an origin. It comes from a certain space. You know, it could be based on historical relations between people of your race and that group in the past. You know, it could be based on certain things that have happened in the last couple of years. It could even be based on the fact that people from your community A living in this particular space for 10 years ago, there was like 3 or 4 incidences related to a particular sort of crime, and then automatically every time people see you, they associate you with that sort of crime or that sort of you know, vice or something. So taking your time really to understand where some of these biases can stem from is the first step, because that helps you really position yourself to ensure that you put yourself in that situation where you don't have any indicators that could actually start reinforcing that from the onset. That's number one. Then, of course, the second thing is find ways to immerse yourself in the culture of your hosts. I find that sometimes no one meets you, you know, as Ken, as a trade specialist or whatever, and meets you randomly and wants to talk about trade specialists. They want to have small talks. And small talks is tied sometimes to the culture and the behavior of the host environment. So personally, I spent a lot of time understanding, like, what are the things that intrigue Nova Scotians? What are the sort of conversations they want to have? How can I, like, sort of educate myself in understanding those things? Because it helped me. Because the moment people stop seeing you as the other and started seeing you as like themselves, because of the fact that speaking the same language. When I use the word language, it's more around, we have a lot of commonalities in terms of topics that we can talk about. That really helps in terms of bridging that gap of stereotypes and building personal relationships. So that's the second one. And then the third one is strive for excellence. You know, in everything you're doing, I understand how sometimes people will talk about stuff that, you know, I'm in my job, I'm being overlooked, so I'm demotivated, and all of those pieces. I'm being overlooked for promotions and all of that. But I can tell you, there are so many testimonies of people who were in those situations and kept going and kept going. At the end of the day, somehow, it could be the manager was replaced, it could be the management was changed, it could even be that you have built yourself so much that by the time you move from that organization to another organization, you are a high flyer. I have seen that happen. So someone was telling me about a story about him having a boss who, because of the fact that the boss felt that he was African, the boss felt like he would struggle in terms of some of the accounting principles and all of those pieces. This was what he overheard. So it made him keep striving so hard to impress this woman, and it never happened. But guess what? He got so good at what he was doing based on this woman that when he moved to another organization, oh my God, he was a high flyer. So this was a situation which was supposed to be a terrible situation. Now it has flipped over to a positive side. It doesn't, this doesn't have to happen all the time. But I think the most important thing really is that develop yourself as much as possible so that there are no reasons to question your capability. There's no reason to question your skills or your knowledge. You know, people would always have biases. And I say to people, there are no bad people. It's just people putting up bad behaviors, which we all have biases anyways. You and I have biases. I'm sure the first time you saw me, there was something that came to your mind, and it's like, okay, every one of us has that. We all have that. But the most important thing is we don't want to allow the biases to influence our actions. And even if it does, let it influence our actions as much as minimal as possible. And we should constantly keep checking it. So in this situation, we are probably at the receiving end of the biases as immigrants or Africans or Black people, whichever one we're talking about. But for me, the most important thing is always remember we are special people. We are people who have left everything, taking a big risk by moving to a new country, and we should make the best sort of employees anyone wants. Because if I'm an employer, I want to hire people like that, because I feel like these are the people who want to come out of their comfort zone and make the unthinkable happen, really. So understanding all of this, equipping ourselves and ensuring that we do some of these three things which I just alluded to will really place us in a better position. Of course, it's never going to be 100%, but it's always a good starting point.
So be excellent in whatever you do. That's really important. And I always say something that whatever is worth doing at all is worth doing well. Even if you're a janitor right now, do it well, because at the end of the day, somebody will notice you where you're being a janitor. Like, do you have an education? I've heard stories like that where somebody's a graduate and is, a janitor or a gate man or something, and then from the way and the manner in which they show forth their excellence in what they do, people began to notice them, and that's where they became a high flyer, as you said. So whatever is what doing that is what doing well, be excellent, and we are resilient people. For you to leave your entire family to a strange country and build from there, you are resilient, and you can take that resilience and put it into whatever you're doing. So that's what I can summarize from what you're saying. Be excellent whatever you're doing. So I see that there's a question here for you. I'm just going to put it on the screen.
Okay.
Joel A is asking, hi Ken, interesting session today. My question is, what do you think will be the bigger effect of the collapse of Brentzil, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, and its parent company on this sort of line of business in the long run? So I don't know where Brentzil is, but that's the question.
Yeah, it's more like I think like a financial services based company. To be honest, I'm not really sure I have a response to that, because it's not really something that I've spent time in analyzing before now. So Joe, we can always follow up and have a chat on that if you want, but I don't really have a response on that at the moment.
All right. So I would leave, if you could type up, can you type your Instagram handle so that people that want to follow up with you after can actually do that?
Yes. Yeah. And Joe, we can have a discussion around that if you want.
Yeah, I would copy it and put it in. Hold on. So yeah, it's really important that we are the best at whatever we do. And remember, take calculated risk. That's cannot be overemphasized. And at the same time, you cannot be promised that there will be no downfall or there will be no failure, but you use it as a learning curve to do better in whatever you're going to be doing later on. So that's really important. So I'm pasting it now in the chat. So if you're on Instagram, that's Kenneth's handle, and you can follow up with him after. All right. Exactly. So I have my final question. And then after that, if anybody has questions, or if you want to, pop in, I put the link to the invitation up there. If you want to pop in and say hi to our guest, you can also pop in. If you have a question that you want to ask directly, that you don't want to leave in the chat, you want to ask face to face, you can also click on that link and you can talk to us directly. So my final question, which is usually like same thing that I ask everybody, knowing what you do now and seeing how far you have come in your career, would you do anything differently?
Yeah, that's a very that's what would I do differently? Interesting. I think a mindset shift probably about 5 to 6 years ago, and I think the mindset shift is really, I think I talked about it briefly initially. So before now, all I thought about was the fact that anything I don't have is because of the fact that I don't have the opportunity, and pretty much like I needed somebody or a group to give me a break to succeed. I don't have that mindset anymore. So my mindset right now is that if there are no opportunities, I create the opportunity. I create the opportunity because at the end of the day, you have so much within you that you've not explored, to be honest. And the moment we really start thinking about that in that way, we will find out that there are so many things we think it's opportunity hindering us, but it's not really opportunity. We just need to start thinking of ways to create it. So if I had this sort of epiphany more than 10 years ago, I would have done things differently. There are a lot of things that I would have pretty much started. There are a lot of things I would have done so differently. But I mean, it's never too late. So right now, that's pretty much my strongest guiding principle. And if I had the chance to do that, I mean, even in terms of things that I studied, like I studied business, I studied a master's in social policy and development. Maybe I would have probably ventured into the arts or something. Maybe that's probably something I would have probably thought about. Because like I say to people, before now, I had certain careers which I respect people. I mean, not respect, but which I'm more intrigued about, which is typically like the professionals, like the business people and all that. But today, I think when I listen to people like who are in the arts, when I listen to people who do more creative stuff, honestly, they blow my mind. They blow my mind because I say these are people not adhering to a script. So if you do a lot of things, you're reading textbooks and you're adhering to a script. These are people, their success depends on how much they can think from the innest of the innest parts of their mind and bring out something creative. So so if I were to do anything differently, maybe I would have gone that line when if I were to go back 30 years ago. So yeah.
Wow, that's really powerful. Thinking that you don't need people's validation, you don't need people's money. You have to
Absolutely.
create the opportunity, and that's really, really powerful for a lot of us to actually. If you forget everything today, don't
Mhm.
forget that. Like that's a key takeaway, that you should create opportunities for yourself. Be excellent in whatever you're doing. At the end of the day, it would pay off. That's
It
really
will.
fantastic.
Yeah,
Thank you so much, Kenneth. This was a fun. I can't believe it's been 1 hour already.
I know, right?
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this. And yeah, I'm just going to go through a list. I don't know if people are leaving comments, but remember, guys, give a huge thumbs up. If you're not subscribed yet, kindly subscribe, please. And then let us know where you're repping. If you're repping Toronto, if you're from Nova Scotia, if you're from Nigeria, UK, leave it in the comment section. Let's know where you rep. And I'm just going to be also going through the list of chat just to acknowledge those that showed up. Unfortunately, I'm only able to see those that left the chat. So if I didn't call your name, it's not because I'm ignoring you. It's because you didn't leave a chat, so I can't see who is who. So yeah, I'm going to say thank you to Chef Bliss. Thank you so much for attending. I really appreciate you. Thank you, K Girls. I think this is my last speaker. I think this is a kids channel when we talked about yes we can. Muyo sorry Sadiq Sunaye. Thank you for joining. Chatty MM, thank you so much for being here. Chris A, thank you so much. You're repping Toronto. Yay, my people. Thank you for joining. Temi Shoga, also Toronto. Thank you so much. I see Glow by Ariana here. Thank you for coming. And yeah, she said hello, host and guest. Thank you so much. Dimfy Van Vilstere. Oh, I'm sorry if I just butchered your name. I'm just going to go with Dimfy. Thank you so much. Olaboye, I think, yeah, from London. Yay! Thank you for coming. And I'm just going to scroll through to see a bit more, and then we can call it a day. Thank you so much, May, for showing up. I really appreciate it. And SGNC, thank you for showing up. And Joel, remember to I will put also the link back on the, not the link, the handle back on the screen so that you can follow up with you. Thank you so much, Joel A, for showing up. I really appreciate it. Every week I see you. God bless you. Thank you, DJ Scar. I thank you for also showing up. She said, I'm proud of you, sister. Keep it up. Thank you so much. Clove Root Plus International. It's been interesting. Thank you so much as well. And Bernadette Hamilton Reed. Finally from Nova Scotia. Hey, so repping Nova Scotia. Thank you for joining. And she said, great job, Ken. Thank you so much, everybody. This was very informative. This was very fantastic. I'm going to go back and watch it all over again. Don't worry, guys. This is recorded, so you would see it. You can just click through the link, and you would still be able to watch this like forever. Whenever you're going for an interview, whenever you're thinking that you're feeling down and you have an idea, this is something that you can click back several times and watch just to motivate yourself, just to, give yourself that inspiration to push yourself to take that leap. Okay. So thank you so much. I really appreciate everybody for showing up today. And remember, I will still have another guest next Saturday, 12 p.m. Eastern time and 5 p.m. Nigerian time. Please join me again. God bless everybody. I love you all. And yeah, I just saw another message coming from Bernadette. Halifax, big supporter of Ken. Wow. So thank you, everybody. And remember, give a huge thumbs up. Share this with your family, your friends, everybody that you think needs this motivation. Share the link with them. And see you again next week. Olaboye also sent another one. Very interesting topic. Yeah, it was an interesting topic. And Bernadette says, excellent job, sister. I will definitely be following you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So you can keep leaving your comments, and it would in the replay, and also share with family, friends. As I said, everybody that needs to watch this was a powerful session. And I believe that this would work, good for your morale when you're feeling down. Anytime, just come back and replay. So I'm going to be ending the live stream now, and I'm going to give you back the rest of your day. Have a fantastic Saturday and a fantastic weekend. Bye.